Welcome to Out and About.
Join Monique and I as we travel around town visiting community groups and queer events.
And we're on assignment to visit them all.
On Out and About.
Tonight on Out and About, we talk to Penny McDonald about Pride March, while Monique visits the House of Fetish. But first, this.
I'm here with Juliana from the Australian Centre for Contemporary Art, or ACCA. Now, what is your official title?
Well, I'm Artistic Director of ACCA, and I'm also the Curator of the Visual Arts Program of the Melbourne Festival.
Okay, and that's why we're here. You actually have some shows on for exhibitions for the festival at the moment, don't you?
Exactly. We're standing in A History of Happiness, and I've put this show together to perhaps not give a completely comprehensive sense of the history of happiness, but a very particular kind of take on maybe why we pursue happiness, if we're successful in our pursuit of happiness, what makes us happy.
So it's a fairly wide canvas there. Now, you want to talk about a couple of the specific works in the exhibition?
Yes, indeed. I think art is never completely divorced from social engagement and from social politic as well. And many of the works here have many purposes.
Mm-hmm.
In my context, they maybe produce a sense of the contemplation of happiness, but they're often about other things as well. For instance, the Felix Gonzalez Torres work, which is the untitled Fortune Cookie Corner, a beautiful piece made in the 90s by Felix, who was a Cuban artist who lived in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very generous art piece. It requires people to perhaps also be generous to themselves and take the gift that he gives them. And the gift that he gives them, of course, is the fortune cookie. Mm-hmm. And inside it necessarily has a message and a little prediction that might make your day a little bit better, your life a little bit better. But it's also quite a serious work in as much as it has an ideal height and it comes from a never-ending supply, and so it is always replenishable. So in some ways it's about the life everlasting, and I think the background to these pieces that Felix has made is very much about his hope that a cure might be found for AIDS. Certainly it is a work, I think, in memoriam for his lover who died, and of course his friends who died, and of course sadly he also died himself. So it's a very pensive work in that way, but it's also, I think, a rather sweet work, a rather generous work, a rather forgiving kind of work in some ways, and fulfills our need for finding ways and means of locating happiness again, perhaps even after sadness.
Are people allowed to actually take the fortune cookies, and that's why you replenish?
It's absolutely necessary that they take the cookies, receive the gift of the message, and if they don't do that, the work isn't completed. Of course, in an art gallery, it's always difficult to know should you tick. In this instance, absolutely, we do want people to take them and get the message. The messages are all different, incidentally, but I think that you'll find they're mostly hopeful.
So you have some Mapplethorpe pictures here as well?
I do. I have two very beautiful Robert Mapplethorpe pictures in the show, and I've selected them very carefully. I think perhaps people are generally used to seeing a lot of penises and a lot of sort of sex pictures from Robert, but what I really wanted to show, I think, is a work that has much more intensity than that, and it's really a very erotic picture where all of the tension and all of the sex and all of the rapture is really located in the Adam's apple. And I think that people have been quite surprised by seeing this work because it is clearly very sexualised, but it is quite pure in another kind of way. And to me it fulfills part of Robert's mission, which was very much to locate his own practice within the history of art. And in some ways this picture called Larry, with its extraordinary sort of sexual tension located just there, is a little like Bernini's Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, with her head thrown back in her rapturous ecstasy kind of position, and that is also a very sexualized sort of piece of sculpture by Michelangelo. And I think that Mapplethorpe was very much aware of where he was located within a kind of prolonged history and discourse of sex and art and religion and a whole range of things like that. And the other work that I've chosen is a rather beautiful flower piece, not the most phallic kind that we have become acquainted with Robert Mapplethorpe's work, but one that is more perhaps in its descent after it's been at its full-blown state and perhaps going into a kind of decay. Again, this is another artist who we should probably read through his own personal circumstances of experiencing life, living with AIDS, and of course, you know, the sadness that attended, you know, that period in New York in particular, where so many of our fine artists really succumbed to that terrible disease. And so again, it's another memento mori kind of work within the show, but also very beautiful. And I think, you know, in essence, perhaps this is the thing about the Happiness exhibition. There's quite a bit of somberness, and there is a little bit of sadness, and there are times in which we feel perhaps quite a lot of pathos. But the thing about that is that out of sadness often comes happiness. And it's nice to know that happiness is there, you know, after you perhaps have experienced something quite dark or you know, difficult in your life.
It's like live life.
You have to live life, and that's why I put Nan Goldin in the exhibition, because boy, Nan lives. You know, Nan lives in such a way that is high voltage. It is absolutely just full bore the whole time. Not always successful, you'd have to admit, but you know, gee, she tries. And I think one of the great things about Nan's work is that it's terribly loving, it's extremely tender, it's terribly forgiving kind of work. And even though the ballad of sexual dependency, which we have here, shows perhaps some of the bleakest parts of her life, it also shows moments of great joy and great love and great affection. And you know, within the sort of sordid, there is also the special. And I think that she has a great talent for really living, you know, in such a way as to feel everything. And I just love the kind of tangible sense she brings to living. And it's, you know, there should be more of that.
We're at the House of Fetish, which is a bondage place. We're going to have a look at the type of people that turn up here, the mistresses, the slaves, see what they get up to, have a look at their dungeons, see the toys that they play with, and what kind of things happen in a house like this. So come along with us. I'm sure we're in for a bit of a ride today. I'm with Mistress, sorry, I got it all wrong, I might get slapped. Mistress Arachne. We're in the costume room. Can you explain what the costume room is about?
The costume room basically is for cross-dressers, as well as our personal costumes for certain scenes. Nurses' outfits, paramedical sessions.
Is that where a lot of probing happens?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Lots of poking, probing, lots of taunting and teasing. Also got a nice maid's outfit, especially made for the larger girls.
Well, maybe I'll try that one on later.
You going to do some cleaning with it?
Sorry? Oh, God, cleaning?
So.
I don't know about that.
We want you to be useful around here. Police outfits.
Oh, okay, a bit of corporal punishment. Do you have a favourite room?
Probably the master's bedroom in the back.
Master's bedroom. That's the one with the spa, is it?
Yes.
Oh, I see. I see.
I like to have a nice spa and get them to wash me and anoint me.
Oh, so you get to have the spa?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't give them the spa.
No, do you have any jobs available? We're with Mistress Tara, the founder and the owner of Fetish House. Can you tell us how this sort of got started?
Over a very long time, lots of blood, sweat and tears, but it's been about a 4-year project and finally managed to get it open about a week before Christmas. So it's been a dream of mine for a lot of years. Yeah.
Now we're pretty impressed with all the different styles of rooms, and we're in a doctor's surgery or something, it looks like. What happens here?
What happens here?
Scared to ask.
Lots of wicked things. Yeah. So, I mean, it depends what they want. Sometimes they like a fairly light sort of medical session where we're basically just play acting.
Do you have a favourite room?
I think probably the main dungeon is my favourite room. It's most of the equipment's there. So
Yeah, lots of toys to play with.
Yeah, lots of toys to play with. I wish it was bigger, but
Yeah.
you know, I designed the building myself, so I had limited space to play with. So I just had to do the best that I could.
And how did you sort of like think of all the different rooms that you've got? Have you worked in other sort of houses like this?
Yeah, I've been involved in the B&D scene for about 8 years now.
Right.
So I had a pretty good idea of what was popular and what was required. And
Do women come here?
some women,
So
mainly men.
mainly men?
Mainly men, yeah.
And if a woman wants to come, or a girl and a couple of girlfriends want to come, or have a
Absolutely.
bit
We
of...
also hire out the dungeons as well, so...
Oh, so you can have a bit of a party in there.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo! Hi, do you mind if we ask you some questions? Yeah, you've just been to the open day of Fetish House.
Yes, I have.
What did you see in there?
Well, darling, I don't know if I can say. I might get slapped or spanked or... Hang on, I'll say everything then. No, there's lots of things in there, hey, beyond my imagination.
And have you been to a house like this before?
No, actually, I didn't know anything like this actually existed in Melbourne, hey.
And what brought you down to see this thing today?
I've heard a whisper amongst friends that there was something of this nature, and it's like I'm an artist that loves to capture this sort of sensually twisted sort of style, and just to see something here like this, it's like walking into 18th century. It's amazing. And they also cater for men and women, so giddy up, girls, hey.
Alright, don't leave me here. I'm driving, you know. Peter! Come back!
So how long has Pride March been going for?
We've had 7 Pride marches so far, so the one next February will be the 8th.
Wow, didn't know there was that many.
Yes.
Who initiated the first one?
It came out of it was an initiative of Midsummer and also, or members of their boards that were having a cup of coffee one day and went, why doesn't Victoria have a Pride March? Nearly every other capital city in the world does. Neither organisation particularly wanted to take on Pride March because, you know, they're busy enough as it is. So an independent group of people got together. My girlfriend Liz Payne was one of them, so I therefore automatically got involved as well.
Is it hard, like, to put all this work into it and then after one day it's all gone? Is that weird?
Look, it's not all gone. You still get people writing stories and letters and poems, and you know, someone brought round a magazine that was a couple of years old the other day that had a story of a son who marched with his parents. You know, it's the P flag stories that always make you cry.
Bring a tear.
So the stories and the effect that it has on people's life is there all the time, and you keep hearing about it, and it keeps giving you that fantastic buzz of what a great day it is.
So what's the reason for the march? Why do people march? Is it a political thing, or is it a celebration thing, or a mixture of both?
It's a mixture of both, and people's reasons will shift. You know, some people will march for the first time because it's their way of coming out. People actually, Pride marches that will be their coming out day. They'll plan for it and they'll get all nervous and excited and whatever, that sort of stuff. But other people, and then the next year they'll be celebrating. You know, some people that have been out for years they come because they know that this event moving down the street, which has such a public face, is very important for those people who aren't out yet. So it's many reasons why people come to a Pride March.
And have you seen many changes over the years in the Pride March?
Look, it's got bigger. Last year with the police commissioner marching, it attracted media attention like we've never had before. And some really good media. There's always going to be some homophobic, horrible scum media. Always. But
don't mention any names, of course.
But generally, it was great. It got gay and lesbian issues out there really in people's faces, and has just been fantastic for so many people.
Well, it's really interesting because more than most Melbourne queer events, Pride March does seem to get a lot of mainstream media attention. Why is that? Is it just because it's more out there than most things, or?
And because it's more out there, you get the bigots and the homophobes making comment, and so that's therefore why the media will pick up on it, I think.
Oh, okay.
You know, Napthine and Napthine and he's now gone.
He's gone.
He's gone. Thank God.
No more Napthine.
But he was very vocal about the fact that the police commissioner shouldn't march, so of course the media picked up on it. This year, the front page of the paper after this last march was the police commissioner with the Melbourne Marching Girls on the front page of the Sun and page 3 of the Age. So yes, in the past it has been the gay nudists that get in, and the local papers in St Kilda did the same. They went for the drag queens and the leather and all that sort of stuff, but the mainstream actually did a really good coverage this year.
It was different, wasn't it?
And I don't know, I think maybe they were trying to actually, there must have been a conscious choice to put in a really good photo that show our community in a really good light. But yeah, I mean, media, they'll go for what's sensational, and it is a shame that we don't get to be seen as who we are, that we are teachers and lawyers and bushwalkers and musicians, and every aspect of life there will be gay and lesbians and transgender people there. So it's like, it's a shame that we don't get that out more, but time will come.
Is there anything that you would discourage from the march?
No, we encourage people to come and be who they are. It's their day. I mean, we provide the infrastructure for other people to come and play, so it's not our place to tell people what they can and can't do on their day to make their statement or celebrate or whatever they want to do.
Okay.
But we do have rules that have been reinforced every community forum we've had, that people don't want floats in this march.
Okay, is that something that's going to change, or because I mean there was talk before about it?
It came up at the community forum that we had a few weeks ago, but the feel of this march and the difference of it, putting semi-trailers into Pride March would be quite horrible. It really would affect the whole feel of it. But we do encourage people to zhuzhi their floats up a bit. You know, you can, we've had horse-drawn carts and camels and decorated billy carts, and there's all sorts of exciting things that you can do. You can get together with a group of people and still dress up. You don't need a truck.
And we'll just make it a bit...
It would change the effect of everything. It would make it hugely... We don't know if we could run the funds to organise the level of road closure and assembly and dispersal changes and all that sort of thing. But if we had to, we could. Logistically, you just keep fundraising and fundraising. But why should people have to spend all those thousands of dollars to have an entry in Pride March? We do want to make the march more exciting. And we had at the community forum great discussions about crowd warmers, about warming the crowd up, because the spectators have become quite huge. So we want to have Kay Sarah going down on a ute, getting the crowd learning some, answer calls that the march and the spectators can do, and really sort of lift the excitement of the march. And I walked down the march with Christine Nixon at the last march, and people just erupted into screaming and cheering as she walked past. It was so exciting, and so that we want to maintain that and keep that and get that going all through the march for every entry. At the meeting someone said everyone should ask their question, how do you intend to celebrate as you start marching? What are you going to do?
Do you get much support from the local or state government?
Huge from the local. Without the City of Port Phillip, there wouldn't be a Pride March, I don't think. They came forward from the very first year that we wanted to run a march and helped with the cost of the road closures, the recycling, the traffic management, all that sort of thing. So they are fantastic. They give us cash and in-kind support. They're our principal sponsor.
That's cool.
So we love the City of Port Phillip.
Looking at Pride March in the future, is there any sort of changes that you envisage, or?
Short term, no. Long term, who knows what will happen with things. Things run a course of their own. They go out of control. They get to... not that I intended to get into a big discussion about what's happened with Mardi Gras, but it's like things can get so big that they spiral out of control and their expenses become so big. At the moment, it's manageable. We want it to grow. We want it to get more exciting. But they're within the sort of existing structure, just expanding a bit. So who knows what its long-term thing is. You just sort of go with the flow.
How do you feel about that whole Mardi Gras financial problems and also having problems with the dance parties? Is it scary for you, or you're feeling okay in your...
We're quite set, but we really are a one-day event. We don't have full-time staff. We don't have office space. We don't have... I mean, public liability is an issue. We can't even find anyone that's going to give us a decent quote, let alone say they'll do it. But we don't run a cultural festival at the same time, which Mardi Gras does. You know, so we're quite separate. You know, we're a one-day delivered event. We are an event within the Midsummer Festival, but Pride March was especially placed to be part of the Midsummer Festival, which we're very excited about. We're independently run, but we are a feature event of the festival.
Do you have any Pride March moment or event that sticks out from the last 8 years?
The Christine Nixon one would be the strongest, because that was just huge in terms of the impact on the march, the impact on the people, the emotion of the whole day. And I think the other things would be the coming out stories. Yeah. You know, and there are many of those, but it is that for me is what's very special, that it does change people's lives.
Do you ever see a day when Pride March will become redundant?
Look, I would like to, the reasons will change. I would imagine that I would love a world where there was no homophobia, where people weren't discriminated against, where we were all treated equal. And if that time, when that time comes, I still think that we would want to remember those times where we weren't, so we didn't let it ever regress that way. So I think there would always be pride. There would always have to be pride times around the world where you remember what has been and the struggle that we went through to get to being equal. So when that time happens, I think we'll still remember, but the reasons will be different.
If people want to join or get involved in Pride March, what do?
They can ring us on 9513 3054. We are always looking for marshals. We need about 100 marshals to put the march on.
And that's fun too, isn't it?
It's lots of fun, and you get a t-shirt, and you know, we give you a sausage and a beer at the end.
A sausage and a t-shirt and a beer.
Sausage and a beer.
I'm there.
We're looking for contacts always for sponsorship. Please come to our fundraisers, you know, donate money. And the other thing we do want to do this year is have, building on the Christine Nixon, a sort of a Friends of Pride March, where we get some celebrity people to come and march, which keeps us in the media in a really nice way.
It does. It's a good way of doing it, isn't it? Okay, thank you very much for your time.
That is a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our show.
Remember to join us next time on Out and About.
See ya.
Bye.
If you would like to get in contact with us, write to Post Office Box 6256, St Kilda Road Central 8008. Email us on benttv@bigpond.com or telephone 9517 0125.